All right, let's just jump right in. So, you've got this dream, right? That perfect custom garage or workshop, a space that's truly built for your projects and your passions. Well, today, we're going to turn that dream into an actual, actionable plan.
And it's such a common dream, isn't it? I mean, just picturing that dedicated spot for woodworking, or finally having the room to restore that classic car, or even just getting organized. It's about creating a space that works for you, and one that's going to serve you for decades. And that's usually where the dream hits a bit of a wall. The idea of permits and builders and blueprints. It can feel super overwhelming, right? But it really doesn't have to be. That's what this is all about, giving you the clarity and the confidence to actually move forward.
So, here's our roadmap. We're going to walk through the entire process together, step by step. We'll start with figuring out what you really need, then move to finding the right person for the job, navigating all the rules, understanding how the build actually happens, and finally, we'll tackle that big question, the cost. Okay, so let's start at the very beginning. This first part is all about taking that kind of fuzzy idea you've got in your head and sharpening it into a concrete vision that a builder can actually bring to life. Now, this right here is maybe the most critical step of all, and it happens before you even think about picking up the phone to call a contractor. You have to get absolutely crystal clear on the main purpose of your new building. And why is that so critical? Well, because what you're going to do in there completely changes how you need to build it. You know, a building designed just for parking cars, that's a totally different beast than a hobbyist's workshop. For a garage, you're thinking about dimensions, having enough space to open car doors, and durability, like an epoxy floor that won't get ruined by oil stains. But a workshop, that's all about workflow and utilities. You need a layout that makes sense, tons of 110-volt outlets, and maybe even some dedicated 220-volt circuits for your heavy-duty tools. But let's be real, a lot of us want both, right? And you can absolutely have it all. You just need some smart planning. The secret sauce here is creating zones. You could have one bay for your nice, clean vehicle, and the other side for all your projects. Maybe even put up a simple wall to keep all the sawdust and mess contained. All right, so once you have that clear vision, it's time to find a partner. And look, let's be clear about this. Choosing your general contractor is the single most important decision you will make in this entire process. This is not a job for a handyman. You need a real experienced professional. So you're probably asking, okay, how do I actually find that perfect builder? Well, here's a simple checklist. First up, you have to verify their Tennessee contractor's license and get proof of insurance. That's totally non-negotiable. Second, make sure they have deep local experience. A builder who knows the Tri-Cities area gets our clay soil, our weather, and they know the local inspectors. Third, call their recent references and ask the tough questions. And finally, really dig into their quote. It needs to be detailed and broken down, not just one big number. And this right here, this is a huge, huge red flag. A true professional is never afraid to show you exactly where every dollar is going. If you just get a single number on a piece of paper, it probably means they haven't really thought it through, and that just leaves you wide open for surprise costs later on. Okay, so you've got your builder picked out. Now comes the part that makes everyone groan a little bit, the paperwork. But look, this isn't just a hassle. Think of it as the essential foundation that makes sure your building is safe, legal, and a really sound investment. You know, all these rules, they're not just there to be annoying. They're actually there to protect you. They make sure the whole structure is built to proven safety standards. Your builder is going to handle the process, but it's really helpful for you to understand a couple of the key ideas. First up is something called a setback, and it's really simple. It's just the minimum distance your new garage has to be from your property lines or the street. It's a straightforward rule that, keeps you from building right on top of your neighbor. The other big one you need to know about is an easement. Basically, this is a legal right for someone else, usually a utility company, to access a part of your land. And here's the kicker, you absolutely, positively cannot build anything permanent on top of one. So you gotta find out if you have any before you decide where to build. And while all that's happening, you and your builder are going to be making a bunch of other key decisions. Things like, is it attached or detached? What kind of foundation are we using? You'll pick out materials for siding and roofing to match your house, and even think about the insulation value of your garage door. Oh, and if you have an HOA, you definitely need their blessing first. Okay, plans are approved, permits are in hand, now the real fun begins. This is the part where you actually get to watch your vision start to rise up from the ground, turning a patch of grass into a real, honest-to-goodness building. So how does it all come together? Well, it follows a pretty logical path.
First, they prep the site and pour the foundation. Then comes the framing, and that's when you can really see its shape. After that, they dry it in to make it weather-tight. That's the roofing and windows. Then come the rough-ins for all the electrical. Then all the finishing touches inside and out, all leading up to that final inspection. And that brings us to the big one, the question everybody has on their mind. It's usually the first thing people want to know, and honestly, it's the hardest to answer without a specific plan. So let's break down what actually goes into the price. So you're asking, just give me the bottom line, what's this going to cost me? Well, anyone who just throws out a simple price per square foot without knowing any of the details, they're just guessing. The real answer depends entirely on the choices you make. Instead of some made-up number, the real cost comes down to 4 big things. First, there's just the size and complexity of what you're building. Then there are the materials you choose. Brick costs more than vinyl siding. After that, it's about how finished you want the inside to be, from bare studs all the way to a fully climate-controlled space. And finally, the big wild card, your property itself. A sloped lot, for example, can add to the foundation costs. But here's the good news. A real pro, a good builder, they're not going to let you get ambushed by this stuff. They'll spot those potential site issues right at the beginning and build them into that initial detailed quote. The goal is no surprises. So when you pull back and look at the big picture, you start to realize this is so much more than just another construction project. And honestly, this quote just nails it. You're making a huge investment that's going to give you decades of use and enjoyment, and at the same time, you're adding real, tangible value to your home. It's a space built the right way for the way you live. By really defining what you need and finding that right partner to build it, you can make sure your project is a massive success. So, your perfect space, it's really just waiting for you to plan it. The only question is, are you ready to get started?